Good morning, students. Myself, Ms. Chital Patel. Today, we will learn about pediatric nursing in that particularly topic, National Policy for Children. Okay. First, the National Policy for Children, in that the Government of India adopted a national policy for children in August 1974, keeping in the view the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Child and the constitutional provision. So, National Policy for Children is established under consideration of rights of child, okay, which is declared by United Nations. Then the policy declares it shall be the policy of the state to provide adequate services to the children both before and after birth and through the period of growth. Okay, so this policy provide all type of services which may be before birth or after birth through the period of growth, as well as to ensure their full physical, mental, and social development. Obviously, it is also important for children to be to be a physically well developed, mentally well developed, as well as socially well developed. The state shall progressively increase the scope of such services so that within a reasonable time all children in the country enjoy optimum conditions for their balanced growth. Obviously, the state pay their enough attention for the child's proper growth and development by implementing this policy, the national policy for children. According to declaration, the development of children has been considered as integral part of national development. Obviously, children are very crucial part of nation, okay? That's why it is the integral part of national development. The policy recognizes children as the nation's supremely important asset. Obviously, it is a very important part of any nation. Declares that nation is responsible for their nurture and solicitude. Obviously, the nation, due to the children are very crucial part of any nation. The nation has responsibility for their nurture, for their nourished, for their nourishment, as well as to upbringing the child very well. So all these are responsibility of nation. So it also emphasized the priorities of children's program and the special focus on child health, child nutrition, and welfare of handicapped and destitute children. Destitute children means extremely poor, or in other words, we can say the orphan also involved in destitute children. So obviously, they also emphasize on this child health, child nutrition, as well as welfare of handicapped and destitute children. A number of programs were introduced by Government of India after the declaration of National Policy for Children. Under this policy, there are a number of programs become invented and as well as become introduced by Government of India. The important programs are ICDS scheme, Integrated Child Development Scheme, Program of Supplementary Feedings, Nutrition Education, guidelines related diets among children, then production of nutritious food, in that particularly how to make the complementary feeding for infant, then welfare of handicapped children, which beneficiary services are provided to the handicapped children or disabled children, national children's fund, then CSSM program, child survivor and safe motherhood programs, etc. Okay, so all these programs were introduced under the guideline of National Policy for Children. The principles of India's National Policy for Children are as follows. There are different principles under this policy. First one, a comprehensive health program for all children and provision of nutrition services for children. Obviously, comprehensive health means all physical, emotional, social, psychological, all well-being involved in comprehensive health program for all children, as well as nutrition services, nutritional supplements provided to all children. Second one, provision of healthcare, nutrition, as well as nutrition as education for expectant and nursing mothers. Obviously, we should provide the healthcare by doing health checkups, nutrition by providing nutritional supplements, nutrition education by providing health talk to the mother as well as guardians of that particular child. Third one, free and compulsory education up to the age of 14 years. Then informal education for preschoolers by Anganwadi, and efforts to reduce the wastage and stagnation in schools. Obviously, there are so many government schools. So in that government schools, there are no enough children to get the literacy level, right? So by we should attract the children by free and compulsory education for up to the age of 14 years. So by this way, we should reduce the wastage and stagnation in the schools. Then, out of school education for those not having access to the formal education. Obviously, those children who not get access to formal education, not going to school, we should provide the out of school education to that particular privileged area, sorry, underprivileged that area. Then promotion of games, recreation and extracurricular activities in schools and community centers by providing all playing materials or playgrounds to the children. By this way we should promote the extracurricular activities among children. Then special programs for children from weaker section, in other words we can say the disabled or handicapped sections. The children who are handicapped or disabled, we should provide the special programs for that particular children. Then the facilities for education, training and rehabilitation for children in distress. Obviously, the person who are disabled or handicapped, we should provide the special facilities for them to provide education, training as well as rehabilitation for particularly from that destitute disability. We should rehabilitate them for that disability, from that disability. Then protection against neglect, cruelty or exploitation. Obviously we should provide the protection against negligence as well as cruelty or aggressive behavior of parents or exploitation, any exploitation or any abuse. We should protect the children from any kind of abuse. Then banning of employment in hazardous occupation and in heavy work for children. Obviously, we should not involve the children in employment in hazardous occupations. So, banning of employment in hazardous occupation as well as heavy work. Children are not involved in any hazardous occupations. Then special treatment, education and rehabilitation as well as care of physically handicapped, emotionally disturbed or mentally retarded children. Obviously those children who have mentally retarded or any they suffered from any behavioral problems, so we should provide them special treatment as well as education and rehabilitative care. Then priority for the protection and relief of children in times of national distress and calamity. Obviously, if there are any kind of disaster or war situation, first priority we will give to the children. They have first priority to get protected as well as relief from that condition. Then special programs to encourage talented and gifted children, particularly from the weaker sections. Obviously we should, every school has annual day, right? So they perform the special programs on that particular day. So by this way we should encourage the talented as well as gifted children, particularly from the weaker sections. Then the paramount consideration in all relevant laws is the interest of children. Obviously we should first focus on children, so we should established any laws which particularly benefit the children. then strengthening the family ties to enable the children to grow within the family neighborhood and community environment, so they can socially well developed, right? By this way they create healthy relationship among family members as well as from other community people also. Children Act. The Children Act is established on 1960, which is amended in 1977 in India. Provides for the care, maintenance, welfare, training, education, and rehabilitation of delinquent child, poor child, right? Or in other word, we say orphan child. All these type of activities involved under this act. It covers the neglected, destitute, socially handicapped, uncontrollable, victimized, or delinquent children. Okay, we also involved all these type of category children under this act. In Article 39F, the Constitution of India provides that the state shall in particular directs its policy toward the securing that childhood and youth are protected against the moral and material abandonment. Okay, by this way, all that categories people get enough care, proper education, and rehabilitative treatment under this act. Juvenile Justice Act 2000. Juvenile Justice, which involved care and protection of children, Act 2000, now amended Act 2006, is an act to consolidate and amend the law relating to the juveniles. Juveniles mean teenagers in conflict with law and children in need of care and protection. It involves two category of people. First, the teenagers who involved in any criminal activity and a conflict with that law, and the children who need care and protection, who abused well. So these two category of children involved in this act. The act defines a juvenile or child as a person who has not completed the age of 18 years. Okay, so in other words we can say the teenagers. It has two chapters, one for juveniles in conflict with law. I already told the teenagers who are struggling with law. The other one for children in need of care and protection, victimized children. In other word, we can say the children who need proper care and protection. It also contains an exclusive chapter concerning rehabilitation and social reintegration of the children. Obviously the children who suffering from psychological disorder or behavioral disorder are not maintain proper healthy relationship between others, so all this involves in this chapter. This act promotes the proper care, protection, and treatment by catering the developmental needs of children. Obviously according to the developmental need they provide the care and treatment to that particular children. By adopting a child friendly approach is in the best interest of children and for their ultimate rehabilitation. Obviously we should provide the friendly approach so they can rehabilitate from that particular situation. The relevant articles are as follows. In that first one, Article 24 prohibits employment of children below the age of 40 years in factories. Obviously we should avoid the employment of children below the age of 14 years. Article 39 prevents the abuse of children of tender age. In other words, we can say the teenagers. We should prevent or we should give protection to the protection against the abuse of children. Third one, Article 45 provides the free and compulsory education for all children until they complete the age of 40 years, 14 years. The other important acts for children welfare are the first one, the Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act in 1986. Second one, the Child Marriage Restraint Act in 1978. Third one, the Hindu Adoptions and Maintenance Act in 1956. Then the Infant Milk Substitute Feeding Bottles and Infant Food Act in 1992. Lastly, the Prenatal Diagnostic Technique Act 1994. All these acts are mostly focused on child health and child welfare. Okay, thank you everyone. Here my topic is finished.